This is so not the norm. So I'm Debra Atkinson, and I want to invite you to ask me your questions. So right now, if I said, what are your top questions about being a woman approaching 50, in her 50s or beyond? So you've gone through menopause or are heading that direction. What are your biggest questions about exercise specifically? Listen, never have has this been done before, so I did it. So this is my 40th almost year in fitness full time, but no one has ever gathered a group of professionals to talk about all the things related to getting the optimal exercise in for your muscle, for your bone, and for your brain health, not just for today to lose the brain fog, but to have your 85-year-old self thanking you for it later. I mean, don't you think right now in this moment that you're in, do you look back and say, I wish I would have known that about exercise. I wish I would have known that could help me maybe be here differently today, have a better body composition, have fewer hot flashes and night sweats because I exercised differently or had more lean muscle. Absolutely. So, my goal with this online event that's coming up, and I'm going to tease some of the very best tips right here. So, some of my favorites and professionals that you will walk away from this video knowing I've got it. This has been super helpful. I'm going to dive in here, and we first go to Sue Hitzmann, and she is from the Melt Method. And I will link down below in the comments to her and share this so that you can follow her as well right now. You can hear our entire interview if you join the free online event. But what I want you to do is listen to what she has to say. None of us want to be achy or feeling old. I mean, we're going to get older. We're going to be 65. I mean, didn't you think that was ancient when you were 25? She right now launches in to what it's like and what you can do about it so you can prevent it.
You got to start doing something from day to day to hydrate and supple back up that tissue before it becomes a real long-term effect, because it's much like, if you leave a plant dried out in the soil for too long, over time it dies. And you can call that, again, part of an aging process, right? It's wilting, it's aging. Well, the human body is very similar, but we can, through eating nutritious foods, sipping water frequently, again, suppling up the tissue, we can restore and replenish the fluid abundance in the tissue to decrease that accumulation of inflammation, and most specifically around the spaces around our joints. And that will definitely make you feel older, is when every joint in your body is killing you.
Okay. So Sue goes into detail about, first of all, what fascia is and what it's not. So if you think it's all about, oh, that's that thing that you're helping with your foam roller, think again. She gives a whole nother perspective. But this next talk will be more mind blowing yet. It's not sexy, unfortunately. It's not one of those exercises in the gym you say, gosh, I wish I could do that, or look at that. I'll never be able to do that. No, it's really easy and it will shock and surprise you. But most of us are not good at it. Here's a hint.
I wish it was more complicated than this or more dramatic than this, but Deborah, it really is the proper breath work. It Joseph Pilates said, breath is the first and the last act of life, and somewhere in the middle, we forget how to do it. And so I believe if the health and wellness and fitness coaches of the world really understood the essence of what an inhale and what an exhale means to the body, it would drastically change. It would literally up level the whole fitness industry, because something as little as a proper inhale and a proper exhale can be the difference between a herniated disc and a woman going on with the rest of her day feeling confident, proud, and ready to get back to her next workout.
All right. Next up, what do we eat? How do we fuel for exercise? And if you are training for life, it becomes your event. Like for you, this is the Olympics, and maybe your Olympics is lifting up grandchildren, getting down on the floor and playing with them, not sitting and watching them play on the floor, or them begging you to go and do things, but you just not feeling like it. Maybe that's your Olympics and or your world championships. So my next guest is Erin Carson from Boulder, Colorado, and I had the privilege of working for her, working with her, and calling her my friend, and still do. And she trains world champions, and she trains athletes and enthusiasts like you and I, who are mere mortals who have no intention of being world champions, or maybe wish we could, but that's just not in the cards. But she talks about not only what she does and finds true for her athletes, those that go to the world championships and win, and those who are training on a regular basis. If you know anything about Boulder, Colorado, you know a lot of people train like they're athletes, even though they may not be athletes. More on that later. And she talks about herself. So, being a 50 something woman who also enjoys a very active life and not just training others, but training herself and competing herself, but simply being active. And she talks about what she's doing and why. And she tells it in a way that is not, okay, you're going to be just like her, because let's face it, we're probably not. But she tells it in a way that makes you relate to how will you know if those are the things that you need. So here's her talking about different supplements and the effect of them on our performance, whether that is for sport or that is the sport of life. How much does exercise, nutrition, your athletes that you're working with, supplementing, what are you seeing trending as we get older? I mean, are we more inclined to, have a cabinet full of things? And do you find that they work, they're successful, they do what they're intended to do? Or is that placebo effect? And if we think it works, it works.
I'm all down with placebo effect. I
I
don't know
am
about
too,
you.
right? Sign me up. Yeah.
I'm good with that. There's a couple things that I will not do. So I started taking collagen peptides
Mm,
like 6 years ago.
mhm,
It just sounded like the right thing to do. Bioavailable protein for it's in me when I might need some repair.
mm.
Um, so I tell you, I broke my ankle last summer in a freak football accident in my friend's backyard. And I was 50-50 whether or not I would need surgery to repair this ankle. And as much active as I've been my whole life, I've never really had to have surgery on anything. So I really didn't really want surgery.
Mm.
I doubled my collagen, but I actively had it in my system when it happened. In 12 weeks, I was on a return to run program. And if you asked me today, I wouldn't even tell you I broke my ankle. Like I don't remember. It was so for me, connective tissue and just being consistently active, I was able to come through a rather traumatic injury really, really well. And I do credit the collagen and having it there. So I'm if Jen Aniston's doing it, I'm doing it. Like that's it. I use Vital Proteins and I'm just like, that's it. She said that's the best, I'm in. So so collagen I think is one, and it's worth everybody doing their homework. Anything you're going to put in your body, do your homework. Don't do it
Yeah.
because I said do it or Deborah says do it. Do your homework and ask your doctor and all of those things. So Vital Proteins, collagen, I take collagen peptides. I also make sure my vitamin D is always up.
Mhm.
I make sure my zinc is on par. So that comes back to blood work, and I am very active getting blood work for
Mhm.
myself and making sure that I'm getting all of my markers. I don't absorb B12. I never have. So I have to get a shot for B12. I've tried sublingual. I've tried pills. They don't work. Everything is green except B12. And if you're low on B12, your life isn't as good as it could be.
Don't go right out and get a blood test yet. But what I want you to do is watch this next video. So, staying in alignment with what are we putting in and how are we fueling, or how are we making sure that, like soil, if you were a farmer, you want to make sure your soil is in great shape before you plant the seeds. Likewise, with your body, you got to be in pretty good shape. You got to have something to work with here before you begin the exercise. Listen to Dr. Gabrielle Lyons. She's got a new book out. You probably want to go and get that as well. She is talking on the summit, but we talk about some pretty controversial issues right here. I give you a little snippet of our entire interview with her. talking about protein and talking about the myth that we're eating too much protein and or what happened with guidelines that you are still not hearing about, like cholesterol, and how much time goes by before we actually have the research. It's in existence, and you and I know it as common conversation that we have. Did you know it takes about 17 years? More right here.
So you prioritize protein because the lower your calories get, the
Hmm.
higher your percentage of protein must maintain
Yeah.
because you have to protect.
Otherwise,
Otherwise, you will begin to lose
bye bye.
muscle. And
Yeah.
that's probably one of the biggest things that I'm sure your viewer has struggled with is yo-yo dieting
Hmm.
over
Hmm.
their lifetime. And each time you crash diet, you lose muscle and you also lose fat, but you lose skeletal mass. And
Hmm.
then as you age, it becomes more difficult to put it on. Over time, you really affect your metabolism.
Yeah. So very true. So very true. Okay. So talk a little bit about quality. And the other question is always, isn't too much animal protein bad?
Is that still a thing?
It's still a thing
It's still a thing.
in
It is,
my crowd, the crowd
yeah.
I hang with. Yeah.
It's really funny. Um, Medicine and nutrition are just crazy. It Number one, there's things in literature that we see, like during my fellowship and that we see in the more academic locations. So I did my fellowship at Washington University,
Mhm.
um, that take over a decade to get out to the public. So
Mhm.
we see these things in the lab from bench to bedside and in PubMed, or we see it with these experts in the academic sphere, but it takes decades to get, maybe 17 years. So not decades, but close to get out
Mhm.
to the general public.
Yeah.
The idea that we're consuming too much animal protein is actually false. The protein, for example, beef is lower than it's been in years. I think it's down, consumption is down 30%. Um, Overall protein consumption, I believe we're getting 12% of our calories from protein, which is down from 15.
Wow.
And, we're not over consuming protein. And this concept that animal based products are bad for you, I would say that that's not true, and the evidence doesn't support it being true, yet it is something that is taking a long time to
Mhm.
flush out. And there's a
Mhm.
lot of narrative. Protein is the most controversial macronutrient. It's because it has a face, it's because it's very heated.
Mhm.
People, whether they have a moral issue against eating animals, is probably more of a push, but again, you have to understand where are you getting this information from.
Mhm.
So, they
Yeah.
even took cholesterol out of the guidelines. Did you know that? In 2015, they removed the recommendations of dietary cholesterol reduction. They took it out of
Mhm.
the guidelines.
Mhm. Okay. If you're not blown away yet, hang around. So we're going to come back to the body and what is it that we're doing wrong potentially? You and I, if we just go in and blindly say we're going to check that box like we did the workout, if we're going about it the wrong way, I will give you an example. I was literally at a gym, although I create home workouts. We do home workouts. We also have some online gym exercise workouts. So I've got to go to the gym occasionally and need to get out of the house, right? But I sat and I was watching between an exercise set. I watched 4 men, just happened to be coincidentally men, because I think posturally, women are guilty of this too. They were sitting on the end of their bench press between their bench press sets. Now, bench press is this, right? Working the muscles in the anterior part of the body, in the anterior part of the shoulders and chest. And as they were sitting, resting and recovering, they were bent over, looking at their cell phones, rounded head, forward neck, what we now know as tech neck, and everything they were doing in the exercise itself and in the posture after the exercise was causing this rounded over posture that is going to backfire. It's like the anti or the nemesis of what it is that we really want from the exercise. My friend the fitness doctor, AKA the fitness doctor, Robbie Stahl, explains this. And we're going to give you a little snippet of some demonstrations that he gives during his interview on the summit.
What's up? Good rule of thumb is about 4 seconds down and about 2 seconds up. 4 seconds down, 2 seconds up. Now notice, adjust the screen again. Now notice that how much time I just spent talking about all the muscle activation.
Yeah.
And how much time I spent talking about this, the actual motion. Most people go in the gym, you watch any gym or any exercise place, watch people exercise, and they're totally focused on the motion. Like, who cares about the motion? It's about your body alignment and your muscle activation. And because of what we just went through, you've learned some of those things. Now imagine that that's one exercise out of like, over the course of 3 months, you do like 100 different exercises or 80 different exercises, and that's one. So when you start exercising like that, with that thought process, you completely fix your body while you get fit, and you're bringing in the emotion of love, of care, unconditional love, and connection, and health for your body. And you're seeing yourself being that optimally functioning human. And there's, in my mind, in my 30 years of exercise experience training thousands of people all over the world, that is the way to get in the best shape of your life.
So if I've got you convinced, I want you to tap down below. Go ahead and register, save your seat. It's free right now. If May 1st through 7th, you're seeing this after the fact still, you can click right here. We'll show you how you can actually get the recordings. If you're around, you want to do it, and yet you realize, I don't have time. I don't have time to watch all those interviews on each day. Each day, 7 interviews is released so that you can watch them. They're each about 30 minutes long. That's a lot of time. I get it. But you'll have a tour guide. We created a PDF for you. So you'll actually see, like, what are the ones that really pertain to me. Maybe you want to go to the ones that are about exercise, doing it correctly. How do I get over the obstacles because I've got some injuries or joints that are not happy when I'm exercising or not happy right now? Maybe it's that you want to tune into supplements, to protein. I've got several protein experts and nutrition experts talking about what supplementation may be advantageous because we tend to be insufficient at these things that give us great energy and that support our lean muscle growth and or get in the way of us getting it. If we don't, you'll know exactly how to do it. So click down below if this was helpful, or if this blew your mind, there was something here that really made you sit up and say, I need to know more about that. Let me know what it was down below. And I hope that we see you inside. It's all free. It's online. We rounded them up just for you.